Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and I'm really excited today because we have a guest on that I've known about for a very long time. It's the first time I'm actually getting to chat with him. For those of you who may have been living under a rock, maybe you don't read Golf Digest, maybe you don't know who the number one teacher in Georgia is, but his name's Andrew Rice, and he's hanging out with us here today on the podcast. And Andrew, welcome to the show. Excited to have you, man.
Thanks very much, Chris. It's been, I know we've tried to do this for a long time, but here we are finally getting it done. So thanks for having me on.
Hey, great things take time. That's just that's how it works. um, hey, I always like to start whenever we have a new guest on, just for somebody who maybe doesn't know you or kind of about you or I always, and this is also just selfishly one of my favorite parts of doing this is I just love to hear the origin story, like this the journey. Obviously, you've gotten to a place in golf instruction where not a lot of golf instructors go percentage wise. Like, how did you start down this road and kind of, share, I guess, if you can, a little bit about the journey to where you are today?
For sure, for sure. Chris, I'm originally from South Africa. I started playing golf, I think, for the same reason that so many of us start playing golf. My dad played golf and he was pretty good, and he started taking me down. And I remember every Sunday evening, we lived fairly close to the golf course and we could walk there. And the course would empty out, and every Sunday evening we would sneak out and play. We had this little loop, like 3 or 4 holes, and that's how I got into it. And as you know, when this game gets you, it gets you bad. And I played a lot of other sports, but I fell in love with golf and became fairly good fairly quickly, and came over to America, played college golf at Central Florida, was an academic All-American and a second team All-American whilst playing college golf, and really, really enjoyed that. I would say that was the most fun I had playing golf in my career, was college golf, just going out with your buddies and going to different tournaments and having someone pay for all your meals and provide hotels and transport was great fun. And then the real world hit, and I had to fend for myself and try to play professionally. I chased the dream for about 3 years. I must say I did not work nearly as hard as what I needed to do in order to play successfully. And I needed to find a real job, and I was taking lessons from David Ledbetter at the time. And so Led was looking for somebody new to help him on the teaching front. So I said, let me try that. And I thought that would be a good occupation, and I'm still looking for a good occupation. I'm still trying to find a real job, but here we are. It's been a fun journey, and really golf instruction has come so far in really the last 20 years, I would say.
Yeah, it's been amazing, even just as long as I've done the fitness side of it for the last, a little over a decade. Just I always joke that when I started, I tell my team now, I say, you guys have it easy. When I started, I'd say, I do golf fitness, and people look at me and say, you do what? What is that?
Yeah.
Right?
I thought that was bad for golf.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, it definitely has I think that's one of my favorite things to ask about is how have you seen over the course of your obviously your playing career and then the instructional career, how have you seen the approaches change? Obviously I probably should ask, the listeners will want to know somewhat, how has fitness changed over the years, or how have you seen that integrated differently, or from not at all to now is it more a part of what you're doing? And how have you seen that evolve over the years?
It has gone from essentially a non-factor to integral. Integral. It is rare to find somebody who is serious about playing competitive golf or serious about improving at golf, who doesn't invest some of their time in a form of well-being, fitness, strength training, speed training, simply to improve their ability to play. I know when I was in college, our coach said to us, much to our chagrin, he said one day, okay, guys, we're going to meet at the track. There was a track, a little 400-meter track on campus, and we're going to do some fitness. And we showed up unwillingly, and he said, okay, guys, I want you to do 2 laps. And so we whipped it around there for 2 laps, just kind of jogging. And he said, great, let's do it again next week. And
That's
and next week never happened. So in
awesome.
my 4 years in college, our golf fitness equated to 2 laps around a track.
That's
And
hilarious.
you know, you're laughing because you're like, that's kind of a cool story, really. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show how much it has changed. College teams are meeting 4 times a week at 6 a.m. so that they can get in the gym and train and get in shape. And it makes a tremendous difference. I say this to people, the golfers I teach, I primarily teach golfers who are more seasoned. They're a little older, they're a little more mature, and they're just looking to play better golf, get more out of their game. And I say to them, why do you think Jack Nicklaus isn't very good anymore? And it's not because he forgot how to play.
Yeah.
In fact, I would hazard a guess that he's more wise than he ever has been in his life. And it's just that his body doesn't provide him with that platform, that ability to be able to get out there and play golf. And so let's do what we can to look after ourselves. We don't need to get in there every day, but we need to do something because this is the vehicle with which we play golf. And if your vehicle cannot move and it cannot generate any kind of speed, and you just struggle to balance or walk or swing the club even beyond vertical in the backswing, you're going to have a hard time playing the kind of golf you're capable of playing.
100%. And it's yeah, I think one of my favorite pieces of what we do is, obviously, people can gain club head speed and that's like all well and good, but it's the other stuff. You mentioned you work with some, we work with, a ton of guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
90s. And it's funny once they'll come to us and say, "Yeah, I want to work on my fitness for my golf game. I want to hit it farther, whatever it is." And then, like, 2 months later, they'll come back and you're like, "Hey man, how you feeling?" And they won't say a word about their golf game. That'll be like the end, like, "Oh, and by the way, yeah, I'm hitting it further, and that's cool too." But it's all about, like, I got up and down off the ground with my grandkid. I felt better, or like it's all
yeah,
this lifestyle stuff of I didn't have to take a break while mowing the lawn, whatever it may be.
yeah,
But to your point,
yeah.
yeah, it's the platform that not only in golf but in life that we use, and yeah, it's been fun for me just as we've when I started, and people are like, "You do what? What is that?" And my
Yeah.
wife, of course, I left my full-time job. My wife's like, "Are people going to pay for that? Like, how are we paying for our food?" It's like I don't know. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope.
And here we are, and here we are. And Chris, I've got to say this, like I see obviously a lot of the same kind of people that you deal with, I deal with on a daily. And I think the intimidating thing for most people about getting in shape is like, I've got to start going to the gym and I've got to do all this stuff and I've got to spend like an hour and a half, 90 minutes, 2 hours a day trying to get myself in shape. And really just to encourage anybody who's listening out there, find something simple that you can do that takes 10 minutes
Yep.
and give us 4 or 3 even 10-minute sessions a week, and I'm telling you, you'll start to see a difference.
Oh yeah, and I see it very much, like good instructors. It's what we're trying to do is get little micro wins, right?
Yeah,
I joke. I said it's very rare I meet a golfer who's a gym rat, right? Golfers will work
yeah,
out to help their golf game, not because they like working out. And
correct.
yeah, and to your exact point, like I guess our goal, based on all the data and everything, we've looked at over 15,000 people. It's like, hey, we can get 15 minutes a day, like 6 days a week, like we're good. Like 90 minutes over the course of a
That's
week, like
amazing.
that's
Yeah,
all
if
we
you can
need,
do
right?
that, that's amazing.
So I'm curious, with, particularly, we work with a lot of the same type of golfer. For you on the instructional side, what's your approach when you have somebody who comes who isn't, a tour player, right? They're 55, 60, life has happened, right? They're trying to get better at the game. Like when you have a golfer like that in front of you, maybe for the first time, how do you approach that person and kind of decide? Obviously, there's 100 different ways you could go for game improvement. Like, how do you kind of go through, like, what's your process of looking at that person and saying, hey, this is what we need to do, first, second, third, and on?
Whereas, much like starting a young golfer in the game, my mantra for starting beginners or juniors is get them to love it first, and they'll come back to learn it later.
Yeah.
And so when I meet somebody for the first time and they're an 18 handicapper and they're struggling with this, my sole purpose, my sole objective is to help rectify that problem that they've brought to me, that they've spoken about. I'm slicing my driver. They're not leaving my lesson tee without hitting some hooks or some draws with
Yeah.
their driver.
Yeah.
I need to give them something that gives them hope, that gives them a sense like I can do this and this is going to work. And so, first and foremost, it's got to be based around hitting some different, i.e., better shots.
Yeah.
A slicer is looking to hit a draw, and my favorite thing is when someone steps on my lesson tee and says, "I haven't hit a draw in my life," and I go, "Well, that's funny. Today's the
Today's the
day."
day.
Okay, yeah, and we can get it done. I know how to do it. And I can just about get every single person at some point to hit a draw. Do they own it? No, but do they possess now the sense that they're capable of doing it? Yes. And that's what's going to hook people in. Not so much hook people in. I'm not trying to hook people in anything, but that's what's going to give them the encouragement that I can do this and I need to work at this. And then as our relationship, the coach student relationship progresses, then we can start to say, hey, how's that stretching we spoke about?
Yeah.
How's that working? How's that? You getting that backswing any longer? And those kinds of things. And then we can start to almost like now the learning phase can begin. They're loving it. They know they can hit better shots, but that's when we can really start to make some long-term upgrades to not only their ball striking, but the manner in which they move. And that's going to change everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a classic case. Give them what they want, and then you can give them what they need.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
100%. We
I,
see that in fitness too. And yeah, I think one of the cool things I love just and what I've read about you and your use of technology and obviously we're data geeks and like I'm a
yes.
big fan of that's great that it feels better. Let's see if it actually is better, right? In the
Yeah.
fitness world, right? They're like, oh yeah, my hip is moving better. And well, let's measure it. Hey, it's not moving any better. So I don't know what you're feeling, but objectively it didn't. We got to change something, right?
Yeah.
For you, yeah, I know you use like Swing Cat, Arco, like you use lots of tech, TrackMan. I'm
Yeah.
curious for you on the instructional side, do you find that one piece of technology is more helpful than others? Do you find it differs based on the golfer? A lot of the questions that we get from listeners is all the technology out there, what should I use? And so, I'm curious from your perspective, particularly let's, talk about these like, 40, 50 plus golfers,
Yeah.
do you find yourself using one piece of technology more than the other? Do you switch it in and out, use it at different times? Kind of how do you approach the use of that technology once you've gotten them loving what they're doing?
Chris, it's all fabulous. It can all help golfers of every ability. But the one piece that I use in just about every single lesson is TrackMan, is
Yeah.
radar, is camera, whatever you've got. Is I use TrackMan in every lesson simply because it tells me how the golf club is communicating with the golf ball and the resultant outcome of that communication. The golfer is coming to see me, keeping in mind they're not playing for a living. They're not working on some internal hip rotation and trying to get a little bit more out of their training that they've been putting in. They're just looking to hit some better shots. And so I use that. And I've got to the point now, I've been blessed to be able to use that for coming up on 15 years now. And it's almost like there are certain parameters, certain numbers that lead to a particular ball flight. And if I can get the player to nudge towards those numbers, they're going to start to get that ball flight. There's just no way around it. And so I use that. It's an expensive piece of kit. It's fantastic. It has never let me down. There are others out there that are less expensive and they work pretty well. They work pretty well. And so I would encourage golfers to find something along those lines that can give them some insights as to how the club is being delivered to the back of the golf ball, because that is the name of the game. If you can influence that club delivery, now the ball flight is going to be uh, hopefully what you're looking for, simply because you're moving how the club's being delivered to the golf ball in your favor.
And I think one of the biggest struggles that I hear from golf or that I see, because we have, launch monitors and sims in our facility that we use it for more the physical assessment and we see how that potentially impacts club speed. But it's funny, we'll get members that'll come in and they're like, hey, can you set up the launch monitor? And I'll just like jokingly, like, yeah, sure. What are you looking at? And they're like, everything. Or they'll say, I don't know. Or like if somebody does have that piece of technology, how do you kind of coach people in terms of, they're obviously they can't be with you 24 hours a day. So you're going to send
Yeah.
them off to practice whatever you're working on. Do you tend to like what's your approach to help people utilize that technology in a way that's I guess I would say not self-destructive or actually
Yeah.
productive? Yeah.
Or overwhelming.
Yeah.
I would say it's going to be one of a handful of things, Chris. And invariably during the course of our lesson, we're going to identify and go, okay, this is your baby. This is the parameter we're looking to move. And here is where we want it. This is where you're starting. Let's get going. And so that's invariably going to be a club path. That's going to be attack angle, how the club is traveling relative to the ground as it arrives at the golf ball. That's going to be dynamic loft, the loft of the club face as it's delivered to the back of the golf ball, and club speed.
Yeah.
Club speed. You could pull out ball speed out of that. That's perhaps even a better one than club speed, but it's invariably going to be something along those lines. Sure, there are cases where we're going to look at swing plane and swing direction and peak height and a couple of different things, spin rates and all of that. But most often it's club path, attack angle, dynamic loft, and club speed.
And will you tend to, based on a golfer's goal, I'm assuming there'll be hey, focus more on we want these parameters, like based on where the person is in their journey and what you're trying to do. Like, do you tend to give them those sorts of kind of goals, I
If
guess, as it
if
were?
if I know they have access to the technology that I have access to,
Yeah,
I'll definitely give them the range within which I would like them to work towards.
yeah,
If someone's a slicer and they're a right-hander, they're coming out to in big time. Their club path on TrackMan might be -12.
right.
I'll go, okay, our goal is going to be from 0 to +4.
Yeah,
So we're going to try to see if we can take you over to Drawsville and spend a little bit of time hitting some of those delicious draws. And then the player knows, they've got that range, and anytime they fall, if they've got access to the technology, that certainly makes it easier. I know when TrackMan came out and this type of golf information came out, people were like, "Oh, you're going to overwhelm a player." And I still, to this day, back then I realized that, and I still to this day believe that this technology is a feel machine
yeah,
because what it does is it helps to give you insight as to what you're feeling. And that feel leads to a path that's -10. And this setup coupled with this feel leads to a path that's +2. Yeah, that's the feel we want to go with.
yeah, 100%. And that's definitely, I love the way you said that. And that's what we always say, like, it basically confirms or denies what your if your feel is real or not, right? And
Yes,
I think
yes,
when you can use technology or data or feedback to close that feedback loop, whenever we're talking about any sort of skill acquisition, right? If you can close that feedback loop quickly, give feedback, the improvement rate of a player is going to be so much more.
correct. It
So
quantifies the feel.
yeah, I've never actually gotten asked this question of an instructor on the show, but you're using TrackMan. You're obviously you're kind of seeing where the students are moving. What have you potentially seen, like, as somebody's maybe got like had a change in their body for the better or the worse? How does that tend to, do you find that that can tend to influence what you'll see on the monitor, maybe in terms of impacting path or attack angles, or when like, how do you know when something's happening in somebody's body that either it's something you can address in an instructional manner, or oh, hang on, like we need to take a look at something physical here because this we're going to hurt ourselves. Like, how do you know? How do you kind of distinguish between
Mm.
those two situations?
Chris, looking at it from the other end, like someone's worked on their body. I've got one gentleman who really has put a lot in over the last 4 or 5 years. His club speed has gone from 89 to he hit 102 the other day.
Wow, that's awesome.
He's worked deliberately, intently on increasing his club speed, in addition to just working out to get in shape
Yeah,
under the guise of golf fitness, okay,
yeah,
which is kind of cool, I think.
I love that.
But he can swing faster, he can deliver the club, he can make changes more readily. And so when someone's working in a capacity like that, invariably I've given them homework and said, okay, we need more of this, we need less of that. And so hopefully, if I'm doing my job, if they're putting the work in, then we start to see those numbers. And so, yes, we've seen an improvement in club delivery. We've seen an increase in club speed. As a result, obviously, the resultant ball flight is significantly different, and the handicap is going down, the quality of life is going up, and everybody's happy. It doesn't always work like that. But sometimes, obviously, you know it, I know it. When someone comes to me for a 1 hour lesson or a 3 day golf school, and I know that they're not going to be able to make any tremendous physical changes during our time together, it's a case of, okay, now, let's understand. We've got to spend a little bit more time. Give me like 5 minutes every morning hitting the floor and doing some kind of stretching exercises. Let's get those hips, let's get that mid spine going, because I need your backswing to get longer. Let's work while we're here to just directly get it longer, but indirectly, how are we going to be able to make that happen? Well, let's get your body to a point where it can facilitate that longer backswing.
Very cool. So the kind of the I guess the last place I want to go, this is totally selfish, just for everyone listening. This is about me right now, just because I'm very curious. I was looking on your website, and you obviously have a lot of digital products and stuff. Personally, I'm working a lot with wedges, and I know you
Yes,
have a product called the Wedge Project. I'm
yes,
curious. I love that you use TrackMan and like you like looked into it. Like, what did you talk to me and then the listeners obviously too. Hopefully, you guys care about the wedges but this is totally for me. But yeah, I'm really curious what you kind of looked at, what you found, and kind of what that's about.
Chris, it's all about wedges is like most of the shots out there, it's all about the quality of strike. And if you can strike the ball correctly, you're going to be in good stead when it comes to chipping and or pitching. And so a quality strike involves a club head that's traveling down to a certain degree. I think some players have more success with their club traveling double digits down. Some players have more success with their club traveling 3 to 8 degrees down.
Hmm.
And so we would need to see where the player falls, but not debatable. The club must be traveling down.
Yeah.
I like to see a ball flight that comes out relatively low with high amounts of spin. In order for that to happen, so many golfers don't understand this. You need a clean club face, you need a premium urethane covered golf ball, and clean contact between the club face and the golf ball. And if you have that, now your technique is going to be able to provide you with an outcome whereby the ball launches lower. Why do we want it lower? It's easier to control. It's like throwing darts. And it's got more spin. More spin is going to give us the ability to go skip, skip, stop. And that's really the kind of reaction we're looking for on the greens. I would like low launch, high spin. Obviously, understanding conditions. If it's wet out, if you're hitting out of the rough, if your club face is dirty, if you're playing with a top flight, for example, you're not going to be able to generate that lower flight with higher spin. And so let's start there. But how do we create the technique that's going to lead to that? I would say a narrowish stance, one where the golfer is quite a bit closer to the golf ball than they're comfortable with. The vast majority of golfers that I teach stand too far away. And then we're going to look for that club making a backswing where it's going to elevate and be traveling in that downward fashion as it arrives at the golf ball. That increases our ability to go ball first, ground second, and if we can have that nice clean strike between face and ball, clean face doesn't have to be a fresh, brand new wedge. It can just be one you've had in your bag for a couple of years. Just make sure it's clean. Good golf ball, clean strike. You're going to start to get some nice results that you've been looking for.
That's awesome. And I guess it sounds like the some people obviously are coming in steeper, some people are coming in more shallow, relative,
Yes.
still coming down on the ball. Do you
Yes.
do you find there tend to be like, I don't know, characteristics of like, hey, you can look at the way somebody swings, you're like, oh, that's going to be a guy who's more double digit versus that's a guy who's more shallower, or for somebody listening, like, say they have a TrackMan, they go out and they practice their wedges, like are there certain characteristics that they could be like, oh, I'm probably that guy, or is it totally just you got to see how they swing and you know not
I
that
think it's a
easy.
case of testing it out, Chris. I have not. I know that in the last few years there have been a major champion and a FedEx Cup winner who both chip very well. They both have very unique elements to their club delivery. The one player has more of this look to their club at the bottom,
Yeah,
and chips lovely. And the other player has more of this look to their club at the bottom, that gentle arc, and they chip very well. And I wouldn't be able to look at their golf swing and say, oh, well, clearly you're A and you're B.
yeah.
It's just what they found to work best for them.
So cool. Just like everything else in golf, it all depends on the golfer.
It's quite a it sounds like a cop out. It used to aggravate me when people that I ask questions of said, well, it depends. And
Yep,
they say that all the time. It does depend far more than we would like it to depend.
it
Um,
does. It
as
was,
human beings, as golfers, we love a formula. Okay,
oh
here's a
yeah,
formula and it works for everybody.
yep.
Unfortunately, many of those formulas do not work for everybody.
No, they don't. Well, it was funny. So we have the GASP system of dual force plates, and so I know you
Okay.
work with force plates as well. And
Yeah.
we got those probably, I don't know, 4 years ago. And we got, and I was like, oh my, we're gonna unlock. There's gonna be like two or three. There's only three types of forces, right? So fast forward now, I don't know how many thousands of people we've had on there, and I look at my research and directors is probably like 6 months ago, and he's like, "Hey, I figured it out." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I figured out that we can put people into buckets." I said, "Great. Well, how many are there? Like three, four?" He's like, 72. I'm like, "So
Oh
they aren't
my
really,
gosh.
they aren't really
Yeah.
buckets. It
Yeah,
really just
yeah,
depends."
yeah. That's not going to help us that much.
No.
Um, yeah, I remember going to the PGA show literally 100 years ago, and there was a Scandinavian company. It was not Swing Catalyst. There was a company before them, and they had a very rudimentary system that you could stand on and make a swing, and you got this little jiggy printout of
Yeah.
how your weighted moved. And I was like, so what do you want it to look like? And they were like, well, we don't know. And
We
I
don't
was
know
like, well,
yet.
is this good or is this bad? And they were like, well, we don't know, and
Yeah.
then a lot of technology came down the pipe to help us understand things a little bit better. But there are fabulous golfers who they're as they've got the four-way trace,
Yeah.
and there are fabulous golfers with a two-way trace.
Yeah.
And it's just understanding things that much better, and it can certainly help. I find that technology is great for the better golfer.
Yeah.
They can learn to move their body that much better, slightly better to deliver the club in a more effective, more repetitive fashion. But for someone who's just trying to get the ball airborne and trying to learn how to hit a draw, there's some more simple things we can do to get you there.
Definitely some more low-hanging fruit, but
Yes.
Andrew, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been great. I feel like we've taken a journey from beginner getting them to love it to high level wedge play. These are my favorite types of episodes when we kind of cover the gamut. We can dive in little bits here and there, but um, where's the best place for people to follow you? Because they're definitely going to want to check it, everything out that you're doing. Social website. What's the best place for them to go follow
Chris,
you?
I am pretty much Andrew Rice Golf just about everywhere on Instagram, on Twitter. My website is andrewricegolf.com. I've got a great new product that's been released with performance golf. You may see it on Facebook or Instagram being advertised, how to get a couple extra yards out of your golf swing.
Awesome.
Check that out. But I'm there. I'm in all those places. If you want some more information, if you want to reach out, please feel free to do so.
All right, awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure to put everybody listen. We'll put all those links in the show notes for you, so it'll be easy for you to find Andrew and everything that you can possibly get from him. Take anything you can get. This guy's awesome. So, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad, and I'm sure we'll look to have you on again sometime soon.
Chris, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, mate. All the best.